Dyugi, I was just saying hi to you. All right, you should be able to hear me now. If you can't hear me, let me know. There was just a little bit of a mic syncing issue there. Perfect, Rajveer Sami, thank you. All right, everyone. So I was just saying that we're doing a speaking part 2 class today, which is the cue card. It's the mini speech, and the lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Lots of members in the class: Abhishek, Bakrat, David, Gus, Rajveer, Dyugi. Nice to see everyone. All right, while we wait for a few more members, let me just show you our websites. This is our academic IELTS website here with the blue background. You can click that big red button to join our premium package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. We are an IELTS registration center and certified agents. This is our general IELTS website, green background. Click that big red button there to join our premium package. I hope everybody is doing great, having a great weekend so far, staying healthy, staying strong and positive. All right, students. So if you have questions, send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com, and you can follow us on Instagram, IELTS_AEHelp or GIELTSHelp. And of course, we have apps, Academic IELTS Help and General IELTS Help, you can get from your app stores to get lots of free learning in. And our schedule for the upcoming week. So today we have this speaking part 2, and this will be followed by a speaking part 3 where everybody will be able to join the chat. Then from Sunday to Tuesday, there's no class. That's usual. And then I'm back on Wednesday the 19th with more live classes, speaking part 1. And then we have classes all the way until Saturday. So live classes are Wednesdays to Saturdays. Okay, everyone, let's get into today's speaking cue card. So this is a speaking class. Just a reminder again for everyone to speak and repeat as much as possible, okay? I always want to imagine that when we're doing these speaking sessions, there are lots and lots of students sitting in their offices, at their home, in libraries and other places, at parks, and they are repeating and copying these sentences and expressions that I use throughout the class. That is a great way to pick up some new vocabulary, increase your fluency. So definitely speak, speak, speak. All right. Cue card for the IELTS speaking. It is a challenging part of the speaking exam because it's not the kind of speaking that we do every day. So this is a mini speech. It does have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You definitely need to practice this part of the speaking test, even if you have great English, even if you're a native speaker of English and you use English every day. You need to practice part 2 to maximize your score because, again, it's not something that we do every day. So I don't know about you, but usually in my day-to-day activities, nobody comes up to me and says, oh, hey, by the way, here's a card with some questions on it. Please read it and then talk to me for 2 minutes. It's like, okay. That doesn't happen. People ask me questions, but not like that. Okay. So you're in your IELTS speaking, and you've gone through the introductions with the examiner. You're remembering to speak in complete sentences, answering, explaining, giving examples. And then the examiner will kind of suddenly say, okay, well, that's the end of part 1. Now we will continue with part 2. For part 2, I will show you a card with some questions on it. There's some notepaper beside you. You have a pen. Please do not touch the card. You will have 1 minute to read the questions, think about your answers, take notes in the 1 minute if you wish, and then you will have 2 minutes to speak. And then they'll read the topic sentence, talk about a place you went to often as a child, and your 1-minute preparation time begins now. And you basically have to know, okay, this is what's happening. Now it's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, okay? All right, let's take a look at the card. Step 1, of course, always is to just look at the card carefully. And even though the examiner will read this topic sentence, read it again and just pay really careful attention to some of the key words, okay? So you read this again, talk about a place you went to often as a child. It's a good idea to read it twice. Talk about a place you went to often as a child so that you recognize some key elements of this little mini speech right away. First of all, you want to recognize the word often, okay? So it's frequency. It's kind of like you went there every single day. And you want to recognize that the concept is a child. So let's take a look at this here. Okay. So step 1, read the question carefully. Paying attention to the important details of the topic sentence. Okay. And then, of course, we read the rest of the question, so don't stop there. What is this place, or what the place is, what this place is? Where is it located? What can people do there? And why you went there as a child, and how do you feel about it now? Okay. All right. So we've read the questions. Let's start thinking carefully. Okay. So step 2, I identify that this is a place. Okay. And when I'm talking about a place, what do I have to remember? Hi, NBX Gaming. Hi, Raz, Kashirsha, David. Good to see more of you in there. Yeah, so Rajveer says the category is a place. And when I'm talking about a place to a person, and this is one of the key elements of doing a good job when you're presenting a mini speech. So OS says talk about the location, the appearance of the place, the attendance, so who goes there, the activities, and the experience. Okay, very good. So location of the place, yeah, very good. The appearance, absolutely. What does it look like? The attendance, so, or we can say attendees, who actually goes to this place. The activities, yeah, so what happens there? And the experience. Okay, and I haven't really talked about this, but talking about the weighing, so how much you want to talk about each of these. Let's say the actual location itself, 5%, so just introducing quickly. The appearance, let's say about 10%. The attendees, who goes there, another 10%. Okay, and then the activities, I would say about 40%. And then your experience is roughly the other 35%, if my math is correct. So that's roughly, like, if you want to think about how much should I talk about each of these elements, this is roughly how much you should focus. So if you're thinking about it minute-wise, right? So you think, okay, well, I have 2 minutes to speak. Then you can kind of do the math on this. Because 2 minutes is about 120 seconds, right? So if you think about it this way, then, for example, with the location, you should really only be speaking about the location for 6, 7 seconds. Okay, let's say roughly. Okay. So I'm not going to do the math for the rest of it for you, but you can kind of figure it out because it's almost 1-for-1. Okay. 6 seconds is roughly enough for one complex sentence, maybe 1 or 2 complex sentences, and then that's it. Okay. All right. Kyber, there's your answer. So Kyber's asking how many sentences should be in that 5%? Roughly 1, maybe 2 complex sentences. That's about it. Okay. If you're listening to my speech, you can hear that in about 6 seconds, I can produce roughly 2 complex sentences as long as I'm being fluent. Okay. So that's kind of what you have to think about there to have a good composition, good structure, good weighing of these different components. Okay? All right. And this is the order. Okay, so don't talk about your experience before you talk about what the place looks like. It doesn't make sense. All right. Okay, and what's my next step, members? There are lots of members in the class today, which is great. So for some of you, this might be a bit new information. For some of you, this is a bit of review. So what should I include next? Okay. Meanwhile, while you tell me about that, NBX says, can we ask about words that we don't know in part 3? You can, but the examiner will not give you definitions. This is an English proficiency exam. It's not an ESL exam, so they will not give you explanations, and they will not ask you questions in different ways, NBX. They can just repeat the question. That's it. If you don't understand it or you don't know words, they will just go on to the next question. Okay. All right. Gus says identify the grammar. Yeah. Absolutely. So identifying the tense. So identify the tense. What should be my focus? Okay. In this case, if we look at the question says, talk about a place you went to. So the verb in the topic statement is past tense, often as a child. So obviously, we're talking about the past. And then, of course, paying careful attention to the rest of the questions, what this place is, and why you went there as a child, and how do you feel about it now. This part of the question will tell you that you need some present tense as well. So your focus here mostly is the past and maybe a little bit about the present. So verb tense, past, and present. And again, you can think about this as the kind of different weighing. So the past tense here would be, in my opinion, about 90% of your speech, and the present tense would be about 10%, and the future would be 0%. Okay, so this is again where some people think about that past, present, future concept. Talking about the future here, it would be really out of context or off topic. So I wouldn't recommend that. The question doesn't ask for it and saying, well, in the future, this place could be good for my children to visit. It'd be like, well, what are you talking about? We never asked you that question. So definitely about 90% past and about 10% in the present. So again, thinking about the weighing, so the ratio of how much information you should give in that tense. And when you're thinking about the past and the present, okay, don't just think in simple terms, but also make sure to include the present perfect. Okay, obviously, that's very useful here. Present and past perfect are very useful here. Okay, great. So now, as many of you said, the next step should be to think about a few different options. So think about 2 to 3 good options for this answer. Okay. Now, before we do that, just really quickly, okay? So, talk about a place you went to often as a child. Okay, so often you have to think about what that means. And as a child, you have to think about what that means as well. So let's just discuss that for a moment before we really dive deeper into thinking of these 2, 3 different places. So often, in your opinion, members, what do you think would be considered often in this context? So if I say a place you went to often as a child, what would be often? So what would be the quantitative number for that? So Honey says frequently, but yeah, Honey, okay, frequently. So how frequent is frequent here? Okay, good. So Kashirsha says every week. That's the first quantitative answer. Okay. Don't give me percents here. You'd want to give me something like what Kashirsha is saying every week. Bakrat says the same, once a week. Carolina says the same, once or twice a week. Yeah, okay, so good. That's what I would say as well, once or twice a week. So at least once or twice a week for a year or more. Okay, so that would be my quantification of that concept. All right, that's very, very important. Saying frequently or regularly is not accurate enough for your audience. You need to get into this much detail. So once, at least once or twice a week for maybe a year or more. Okay, so and then what do you think the concept of child means? So what would be important to think about when you're considering the word child? So definitely part 2, there's no question, everyone. Part 2 cue card, and you're speaking, is a brain test, okay? It's also testing your thinking, your speed of thinking in the English language, okay? All right. So before, Sammy, we get to those ideas, let's discuss real quickly the child. Okay, so what would be child? Okay, Rajveer says age of 3 to 10. Jainil says 7 to 10. Yeah, Kyber, absolutely. It's really important for coherence as well, of course. David says from like 5 to 12. Okay. Yeah, I mean, even 13, 14, I know it's a teenager, but still a child. So teens are still children. So for me personally, I would probably go with 7 to 15. Okay. So this is objective, obviously. And the reason I would choose this is because it's a time interval I can remember, and I was quite active. From the age of 7, okay? So I would choose 7 to 15 simply because here it's believable that I can remember a lot of details from that time of my life. And of course, a 7-year-old is in grade 2, so they're becoming a bit more active in society. They're enrolled in more activities. They're more comfortable with school at that point. So there's just content, right? Because remember that when we are talking about our answer and we're picking or choosing that good answer, the 3 points you have to remember are that it's original, okay? There's lots of information. and it's easy to talk about. So when you're coming up with your ideas, definitely keep that in mind, because in this question, if you talk about a place you went to often when you were 3 years old, it might become challenging to sound realistic, to think about lots of information, and it might be difficult to talk about it as well if you're talking about going to grandma's house at the age of 3. Okay? Does that make sense? So David says under 21. I would say that's a bit reaching. Okay, that's a bit too much. All right, so now let's think about these good ideas. I see lots coming up, so give me some give me some ideas. All right, so Janelle says the candy shop. I like it, Janelle. Candy shop. All right, good. Janelle's really adamant about that candy shop. Kashirsha, theme park once a week? I don't know. It's a tough sell, okay? I don't. It's hard to believe that somebody went to the theme park once a week for a year or more, okay? Don't forget the often, all right? Kashirsha, if you started talking about theme park, same thing, Gus, amusement park, you might get into some trouble there, okay? Honey says football stadium, maybe the football pitch. Okay, or if you're in the US or Canada, it would be the football field. Okay, if you're in the UK, it would be the football pitch. I don't know about a stadium, honey. Careful with that. Okay, Carolina says video game place. Carolina, it's not a bad idea, but make sure you have the correct vocabulary for that. It's called a video... anybody know what it's called? I kind of quickly gave you a hint there. So where we don't really have too many of these places anymore, but when I was growing up, we had them. Yeah, there were places we went to often. It's a video. Yeah, there it is, Carolina. It's a video arcade. Yeah, video arcade. Okay, so only pick places that you know the vocabulary for, right? Der Perstard says a scrapyard. Yeah, you might have a reason for it, maybe. Okay. A scrapyard. So, Sammy, movie theater once a week for a whole year. That's a little bit difficult to believe. Ois says Uncle Jim Horse's Farm. It's not a farm, Ois. Kashirsha has the better answer. It's a ranch. Okay, so okay. So again, keep in mind, you have to be able to talk about it. You have to know the right vocabulary. So it's a video arcade. It's not really, well, if you say farm, okay, but the more accurate word is ranch. So you go to a ranch for riding horses, all right? A candy shop might also be called what? What's the more common, especially in Britain? They like to call it something else. Anybody know what another word is for the candy shop or the candy store? Okay. Sammy says to the pool for swimming classes. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about as well. So local pool. Okay. All right. It's not a treats shop. Well, yeah, OS, you can call it a treats shop, but there's another word for it as well. It's called a confectionery. Okay. Confectionery also usually has cakes as well, but it's called a confectionery. Candy shop. Sweets shop is okay as well. All right. Okay, so original, easy to talk about, lots of content. Let's figure this out. So confectionery or sweets shop will go number 1. Football pitch will go number 2. Video arcade will go number 3. Scrapyard 4. Ranch 5. The local pool 6. So keep in mind, easy to talk about, lots of content, okay? And original, what would you go with here? the candy shop, the football pitch, video arcade. And again, in the real exam, you really only need 2 here. So Khyber Jania would like number 1. Honey and Bakrat number 2. Rajveer says number 6, the local pool. Osman says number 2, the football pitch. Okay, Carolina says 6 as well. Sammy says 6. Yeah, I think the football pitch might be a very popular choice. Okay. David really wants to do the scrapyard. All right. So yeah, I think the local pool is a good one. There's definitely a lot of content there. Okay. And it's going to be a bit more original than a football pitch. Okay, I think. So I think internationally more people would pick the football pitch than the pool. It's going to be fairly easy to talk about. And the pool kind of fits well, if you think about it again, it kind of fits well with this age group, the 7 to 15. Okay, because a lot of people learn to really swim around that age. We go to the pool at a younger age, but we really get into swimming at that age because we go to the pool with not only our family, but also often with the school as well. We go to swimming classes, so I think that's a really good pick. Okay. All right, so let's do that one. Let's do the pool. Now, I have one more step here before my 1 minute preparation time is up. I have a couple of steps here. The first, of course, is to take some notes. So let's do that. So step number 5, don't forget, in 1 minute, you got to take some useful notes. So step 5. Okay. Are the notes. Okay. So when you're thinking about your notes, think about the same concept that we started here with. So first of all, it's the location, right? So remember this, right? So 5% location, 10% appearance, 10% attendees, and then 35%. So with your notes, you want to think about it that way as well. So maybe just one note, one note, and then two, or 2 to 3 notes for each of these, okay? So when you're thinking about your notes, you can also think about it in this kind of weight, okay? So location, just one note, appearance, maybe 1, and then attendees, just 1, and then for the activities and the experience, that's where you want to have some more notes so that you can talk about those in more detail. Okay, does that make sense? So it is important to practice and think about the actual proportion of this information. Okay, you'll do a lot better. Believe me, you will. Okay, all right. So let's do this. Let's take some notes. And it should be in that order. So first is the location. Okay. All right. So let's, yeah, they can be 15 Khyber and learning to swim. That's totally fine as well. Okay. And think about the pool. Okay. Okay, so Honey says government swimming pool around 5 kilometers from my home. Okay. Okay, so I would just write 5 km district pool. Okay. You're going to be able to remember other information. You don't need to put down the name of the pool because you're going to remember that. So yeah, maybe the distance and remembering that it's the pool in your local district. Okay. Abhishek says BFit swimming pool 5 kilometers. So keep your notes simple. Its appearance, what does it look like? Okay. So what does the pool look like? Again, remember to write down only useful notes. So don't write down ideas that you are clearly going to remember, all right? Write down ideas that will help you to give further information and further detail, okay? That's what your notes should be, okay? Keep that in mind, okay? Good notes are not obvious information. They are ideas which help you to be more fluent and give further detail. Okay, so that's what you should be thinking about. Okay, so Carolina says 3 pools. All right. Sammy says 30 by 30 feet. Now, Sammy, usually swimming pools, standard Olympic size are 50 meters, and then most pools are either that or half length, so 25 meters. There are different ones, but that's about it, okay? So I would go... Okay. So I would probably, for describing what it looks like, 50 meters, 10 lanes, 3 pools, 1 to 3 meters deep. That's a good piece of information to write down, okay? 1 to 3 meters deep. Why is that a good piece of information to remember right there? Okay, so this is where quick critical thinking comes into play. And again, going back to this here, right? It allows you to be more fluent and give further details. Why is this little piece seemingly just a detail, but so very, very important? So why is that? So yeah, Sammy's saying that too. Starts at 3 feet and ends at 8 feet. David says it's quantitative. Kyber says it's visual. Rajveer says it's a sufficient depth for children. Carolina says that it's important for learning how to swim. Yeah, I agree. And this contains a lot of emotional and experiential information as well, right? Because you're learning to swim at the 1 meter end, you become confident, and then as you get into the deeper end of the pool, it's scary, it's exciting, you learn to dive, you have to stay above the water, you have to be independent. So it's super content heavy. Does everybody see that? Yeah, so Rajveer is saying to explain my struggle or for progress, right? So extremely content heavy for this experience of going to the pool regularly and developing, right? Okay, so having the right notes can really assist you to be more fluent and to get a better score. Okay, so we have the location, we have the description, the important points that we can expand on. Now we go to the attendees. So again, attendees, we want some notes, and we don't want to write down obvious ideas. Like we don't want to write down children. Okay, yeah, children are at that pool. That's what we're talking about. So we want to be a little bit more detailed. We want, again, more useful information. Okay, so peers, yeah. Okay, peers is better than children. So maybe you're in school groups, right? Okay. Trainers, yeah, absolutely. So swimming. Who else? Who's usually at the... There's a unique word that some of you should be thinking about. I'm sure some of you know it, at the pool. If I'm trying to swim and I'm sinking, blah, 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 who's going to jump in the water to save me? Okay, vocabulary, right? Lexical resource. You need these words. Okay, so it's not a savior. It's not a safeguard. It's some kind of a guard, but it's not a safeguard. And this is a good word to know if you're traveling around the world. Yeah, very good, Gus. They're called lifeguards. Okay. Okay. So remember that word. It's not a rescue team. It's a lifeguard. Okay. When you're traveling around the world, you're staying at a hotel, you will often see a sign. Each person is responsible for themselves. No lifeguard on duty. Okay. When you go to a beach in California or in Hawaii, please check the sign, look around, check to see if there are lifeguards on duty or not. Okay. It's an important word in the English language when you're moving around the world. So lifeguards. So peers, trainers, lifeguards, sure. Maybe teachers from school. And maybe your parents. That could be I think some of you said that. Okay. All right. So now we're on to activities. So what kinds of activities did you do at the pool? Okay, so instead of saying learning to swim, that's something that you're going to remember. What other words should you think about for activities? Okay, so there are lots of activities that you can do at the pool. You don't have to write down learning to swim because you will remember that. Hopefully you will. I mean, that's not if you don't remember to tell the examiner that I went there to learn how to swim, then you're too nervous. Okay. All right. Osmond says swimming with the help of a life jacket. Osmond, usually most people don't have life jackets. There are other tools to learn to swim. Okay, laps, races, yeah. All right. You're going to remember Sammy's swimming classes. Diving is a good one. Okay, I like that. All right, that's a good one. Okay, maybe water polo. A lot of us play a bit of water polo at some point, even if it's just for fun, right? So, David, very good. Hold breath. All right. Anybody know the different kinds of strokes that you learn while swimming? Okay. Anybody know the names of those in the English language? This is some good vocabulary as well. So what are the different types? If I'm doing this, anybody know what that kind of swimming is called, where I'm swimming this way? Okay. Oh, butterfly. Okay, everybody's going. So butterfly is when you're swimming like this. Okay, that's the most advanced. All right. Everybody's jumping for the most advanced. So, yeah, okay. Most of us never actually learned to properly butterfly, but we've got an ambitious group, so that's great. Okay. Natalie says crawl. Yeah, it's called a front crawl. Okay. Yeah, so what I was showing you there, like this, that's the front crawl, okay? Freestyle is basically any, right? And then we have the backstroke, and we have the breaststroke. I think it's 2 words, but yeah, maybe it's just one. Backstroke, you'd have to check that, students. I'm not sure because I've never really written these, but spell check is telling me they're correct as 1 word, and I would... Yeah, not be surprised if in swimming we just kind of write these as one word. So, so you have the front crawl, okay? You have the backstroke, doing swimming in today's class. You have the breaststroke, where you're swimming like this. And you have the butterfly. Those are the most common, okay? All right, good. So laps, races, diving, water polo, maybe water rescue, okay, as well. And all these different strokes. All right. And your experience. So how do you feel about it? So what kinds of emotions were generated during your swimming. So you're going to remember something like exciting, scary. I wouldn't write those down. Okay. I would write down valuable. Obviously, knowing how to swim is extremely valuable in life. Okay. It gives you confidence. It lets you travel and experience different parts of the world, going to oceans and so on. So I would write down travel, and that's how you think about it today as well. Maybe some new friends, okay, that you met, that you came across, all right? Maybe you were able to get a job as a lifeguard a little bit later on for a summertime job. So those would be some good notes. Okay, I'm going to start moving along a little bit here, students, because I really want to get our response done as well. And we're doing a fantastic job developing this concept, so I'm glad that, we're really putting this together well. Hi, Mohit. Thank you for that super chat contribution. Okay, so now we want to get our first sentence ready. This is our next step. So this is step 6 for today. First sentence. And again, this is just a reminder. Make sure to have your first sentence ready to go before your 1 minute is up. Okay? So, a place that I frequently, or here, I'll give you a new word, that I frequented. Okay? Check this out, students. You can use frequent as a verb. I don't know if you're familiar with this, and it is commonly used this way by good communicators in English. So, a place that I frequented from the age of 7 to 10, about 2 to 3 times each week, was my local pool, Crystal Lanes, roughly located roughly 5 kilometers from my home. In my district. Okay, so there's my first sentence. Okay. So a place that I frequented from the age of 7 to 10, about 2 to 3 times each week, was my local pool, Crystal Lanes, located roughly 5 km from my home in my district. Sammy says, the most memorable place that I went to every Sunday with my dad was the National Swimming Pool from the age of 7 to 15. Very good, Sammy. Exactly. Kyber says, a place I frequented from the age of 5 to 12, about 2 times a week, was a local pool. It was 5 kilometers away from where I resided. There were 3 pools, about 50 meters, 10 lanes, and from 1 to 3 meters deep. Very good, Kyber. Very good. Excellent. Kyber, that would be Band 9 speaking, as long as you're nice and fluent. Okay. Rajveer says, a place that I went to frequently as a child was the public pool named Fitbit swimming pool, which is just 5K from my home. Very good. Okay, that's exactly it. So now that we have a lot of great ideas, it's going to be smooth sailing. Okay, so I'm basically just going through my notes and putting all of this content together. So do the same. I'm going to type, and then I will keep looking at the chat and seeing what you come up with. So really work on fluency here, members. So fluency. Take this information and put it together. I will give you feedback. So I'm going to type and give feedback. Okay. So, This recreation center is located. I'm using present tense because maybe it's still there. Okay. So, let's see some more. Otis says, when I was a child, it was the best place to go to, this pool in my town, just 5 kilometers from my home. And I went there every Monday with my parents. Okay. Otis, I made a few corrections because you have a few grammatical mistakes there. Like the best place which I went to was the pool. Okay. Bakrat says the place where I often visited during childhood once or twice a week is the swimming pool not far from my home, situated in the center of my hometown, Poon. Okay. Bakrat says this rectangular shaped 50 by 50 meter pool was from 2 to 3 meters deep. Yeah, I forgot that part. So the pool is an Olympic sized 50 meter pool with 10 lanes. And about 1 meter in the shallow end to 3 meters at the deep end. Okay. The deeper end of the pool also has 3 and 5 meter diving boards. Okay. Yeah, let's get into that a little bit. All those hyphens and dashes. Okay. So, let's see some more. Kyber says, mostly there were my 3 peers as I was inviting them to swim with me every Monday to Friday, trainers and lifeguards, so that they could rescue us from drowning, Kyber. The word is drowning. Sammy says the pool is 25 by 50 meters, rectangular size, from 1 to 4 meters for improving swimming skills, and always filled with fresh, clean water. My Uncle Tim trained me to swim. Okay. So, yeah. So I had started going to this pool at the age of 7 with my parents for swimming lessons, and then later with my peers from school. Of course, there were always trainers and lifeguards who were there to make sure that I wouldn't drown. Okay. All right. Now, don't go off topic and don't start saying, like, in fact, one time I was sinking and the lifeguard had to jump in, because then you will be going off topic. Okay. So be careful with that. Okay. So between the age of 7 and 15, I learned to effectively swim in several styles. Front crawl, backstroke, and even butterfly. I know lots of you want to include that, so we'll include that, right? All right, so here are the activities, right, that I did. So I've talked about location, I've talked about the appearance of the attendees. Now I want to really get into the activities, right? Because I remember I said activities should be about 35%, so about twice as much. Carolina even has our front crawl. There's even an emoji for that, which is great. So an even butterfly. I attained a lifeguard level 1 certificate at the age of 15, which later came in really handy to land a summertime job at the beach near my home. I participated in many fun events at the pool, including swim meets. Okay, so swimming races. We don't say swimming races, we say swim meets. Okay, so again, some vocabulary here. If you say swimming races, it's not the end of the world, and you can still get a band 9. Probably the examiner isn't going to be like, oh, they didn't use the word swim meets. Native speakers will sometimes omit the exact word as well, and it doesn't mean you can't get a band 9, but it is called a swim meet. So at the pool, including swim meets, and even the occasional water polo tournament. Okay. Now, so these are the activities. Now my experience, okay? So what did I experience while at the pool? All right. Okay. So all of those emotions. So I have many emotional memories from my frequent visits to the pool. Now, notice in this sentence, members, frequent visits. It's very important. You want to always keep the original statement in mind. The often went to as a child, right? So I have many emotional memories from my frequent visits to the pool. I can clearly recall being so scared of swimming in the deep end for the first time. Also, I remember how proud I was when I won my first race. Now, I look back on these regular visits to the pool with positive thoughts, not to mention that being a strong swimmer, I am confident while traveling to different aquatic destinations in the world, and I can take full advantage of water sports like going surfing in Hawaii back in 2018. Okay, so I'm just kind of finishing it up here. We're kind of running out of time, but you can see, members, that there's just a lot of great information that I can weave together now that I have all of that good thinking from before. Okay. Kyber says, whenever I was there with my pals, I remember learning front crawl, backstroke, and butterfly with the help of my trainers, and I was enjoying these activities a lot. I was enjoying. Okay. Sammy says, also 2 lifeguards at the end of the pool. Further, my peers from school and my apartment. Initially, it was scary to get inside the water, but after a couple days, I really enjoyed the 1-hour class. I started swimming front crawl. Over a period of time, my uncle taught me how to deep dive. At the age of 12, I participated in the local district level tournament. Okay, very nice, Sammy. Good writing. OS says, I learned to swim in the grand pool, so I first got my shorts on in the dressing room. Then I started to play in the water. Okay, OS, good. Rajveer says, I have many memories associated with my frequent visits to this pool. I can recall my struggles of the first 15 days when I was super scared of the water. I'm also feeling proud as I was able to get level 1 lifeguard certification. Very nice. Okay, so some really nice writing, members, and nice speaking. Let's go through this from the top. Okay, so let's practice speaking here. So talk about a place that you went to frequently as a child. Don't forget the questions on the card. You have to answer them. I did keep those in mind, like what do you think about this today? Okay, so here we go from the top, all right? Go with me. So a place that I frequented from the age of 7 to 10 about 2 to 3 times each week was my local pool, Crystal Lanes, located roughly 5 kilometers from my home in my district. This recreation center is located on about 10 acres of government land and is owned and operated by the city of Victoria. The pool is an Olympic-sized 50-meter pool with 10 lanes and about 1 meter in the shallow end to 3 meters at the deep end. The deeper end of the pool also has 3 and 5 meter diving boards. There are 2 other smaller pools for toddlers and games. I had started going to this pool at the age of 7 with my parents for swimming lessons, and then later with my peers from school. Of course, there were always trainers and lifeguards on duty who were there to make sure that I wouldn't drown. Between the age of 7 and 15, I learned to effectively swim in several styles: front crawl, backstroke, and even butterfly. I attained a lifeguard level 1 certificate at the age of 15, which later came in really handy to land a summertime job at the beach near my home. I participated in many fun events at the pool, including swim meets and even the occasional water polo tournament. I have many emotional memories from my frequent visits to the pool. I can clearly recall being so scared of swimming in the deep end for the first time. Also, I remember how proud I was when I won my first race. Now, I look back on these regular visits to the pool with positive thoughts, not to mention that being a strong swimmer, I am confident while traveling to different aquatic destinations in the world, and I can take full advantage of water sports like going surfing in Hawaii back in 2018. All right, and at this point, the examiner will go, okay, your 2 minutes is up. Now I will ask you a question related to your response and some questions on the topic. And we're going to do that in 30 minutes when we continue with the next class where everybody will be able to join. And that will be speaking part 3 coming up in half an hour. Again, for lots of speaking practice, aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS, everyone. Great job, students, in today's class. hopefully I'll see you all in 30 minutes so that we can get deeper, or we can deep dive, no pun intended, into the part 3 questions. So let's stick around for that deep dive. All right. See you soon, everyone. I'll be back in 30 minutes. Bye for now.